noticed that they put a 5G tower in on Water Street going up to the boardwalk. Can you tell us how many are being put throughout town, and it's going to improve coverage in the summer when we're so crowded? Is that the,
Yeah, so,
okay.
and I'll take this and then if you guys wanna jump in.
Okay.
So in 21 or 22, we passed an ordinance. So basically the telecommunications company said, we're coming to your town and we're gonna lay poles wherever we want and we're gonna do whatever. So we had no say in where the poles were going, how many were going, and the makeup, the look of the pole.
Just to clarify, Mayor, if I might, the state mandated
Right.
that they can come into
Come in,
your town, and you cannot tell them they can't.
Okay.
The state established that.
Right.
So that's why, to be proactive,
We passed the ordinance
then you can go.
to say, okay, we're gonna decide the makeup of the 5G tower, where it's going, and we put parameters around it. So right now, 11 are being installed in town. We've identified 74 total spots for poles. I don't think they're gonna put 74 poles throughout town. They may put 20, they may put 30, but we identified 74 spots in town. Right now, the initial phase is 11 is coming in. And again, we were forced by the state to say, hey, they're coming into your town and this is what's happening. You hear in Belmar, they're opposing it. There's gonna be litigation, and I talked to our attorney today about that. He said if we opposed it, there's gonna be a massive litigation against the town. So instead of opposing it and facing litigation, let's just set up the ordinance with the parameters that we want. So, and the 5G is, I mean, look, 5G is all around us. It's just to, again, help with the signal strength, not only in the summer, but going forward.
Yeah, hopefully it will help us because, right?
I don't know what the problem is around.
I don't know. I honestly, every time I'm on my cell phone, it drops, I get cut off, I have to call back.
Right.
So I'm hoping
So
it helps.
it could help you, yes.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
And I think some of the parameters that were put in place were good things, like they can't be within 500 feet of another one.
Right.
We really wanted to make sure that they would spread them out,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't all be located in one area.
Was there an ordinance of how close it can be to a resident's home?
There is some language in the, it was 2022, I don't remember exactly
Yeah.
what it
I
said.
know they just had a big meeting up in Monmouth County on it. I know Monmouth County is pushing to not have it because of the side effects of all the health things.
There's a lot of side effects, and I know that one gentleman who got up here the other night said it was gonna be like 6 feet from his home.
And so there's, we did, I know Doug, reached out to the attorneys, I know there's some discussion on, can we hold it pending the outcome with Monmouth? Monmouth supposedly is taking it to Superior Court or
That would
something
be
like
a
that,
good
so
idea to hold it off.
I don't know if we can.
No, our attorney said that, because it's already passed, we can't hold it up. So it's already passed. Again, we're opening ourselves up to litigation if we pause it at this point, so we'll let them do the 11 and then, again, hopefully there's no need for 74. We're a small town, so I don't think we're gonna have 74. And again, that's different than the monopole.
The monopole is strictly 4G.
Right, and that's just for the, telecommunications.
What's existing there.
Yeah, what's existing there. So that's different than these 5G poles.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I kind of thought I remember our old mayor, Knitcher, saying 5G will never come into town.
Yeah, again, we were forced by, this was
Okay.
prior to the state coming and saying, hey, they're coming, you have to adhere to what they want. And then we said, hold on, we're gonna do it on our terms. And that's how we created the ordinance.
And that was made while Paul Kincher was mayor.
Right.
Now, if I remember correctly, part of that was they would try to be put on existing poles if it was possible. Was that part of it?
That might have been part of it, yeah, I
It identifies certain poles that it can
Right.
be on.
Right, that are already existing. that it
Already
can go on.
existing, ideally already existing.
Right,
light
that's what I
poles.
thought.
But, right, I don't know how many
Um,
you're gonna get.
Utility poles,
Right, utility
smart
poles.
poles,
Right.
different things like that.
But what are these things that they're putting in the ground? Like they were working.
So those are the
Those are
new
footings.
poles.
That's the
Yeah.
footing for the pole.
Yep.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be on the ground.
Yeah.
No,
No.
no.
That's the
It has,
footing.
Yeah.
it has pretty deep footings.
and it's big. I saw them putting one in, I think it's Midwood,
Yeah,
and, yeah, it's pretty big. Okay, so that's the footing and then the pole.
yeah.
Okay.
When that's done, or when the monopole and the 5G and everything, does that mean eventually we may wind up having a choice of providers in the town instead of just the one provider that we're all kind of stuck with right now?
I mean, that's what you're talking about, the internet provider?
Yes.
I mean,
Has nothing to do with
it has nothing to do with the internet.
Okay.
It's all the cell
Xfinity,
towers
yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that's an issue too, is that we're stuck with one provider.
Yeah.
We'll never get Fios.
Verizon.
No.
Fios,
I was told we'll never get
yeah.
Fios.
Yeah.
Verizon
Yeah.
Fios, we'll never get.
But you may be able to get to Verizon 5G.
5G
Maybe you could
potentially.
get the 5G
Right.
if there's
Well, that's
a
what I'm
cheap.
saying.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be able
Right, yeah,
to
Yeah,
destroy.
T-Mobile,
yep.
Yeah.
right.
So they
You might
may
be able to
offer
get that.
some alternatives, yeah.
So the 11 that are going in, do you know what provider is putting those 11 in?
So it's a muni site, so it's a conglomerate of all, of them, yeah. So it's not one provider, and that's the thing we wanted to avoid too, is that providers coming in and then, you know, AT&T has 80 or 50 poles, and then now Verizon needs to put another 50, so we're using just a conglomerate that's putting, you know, all sorts of poles for everybody.
Yeah, so potentially this could be an upside in terms of improved service.
I think it's gonna be a benefit at some point, yes. Yep. Anything else on the polls? Okay, any other questions?
As,
Okay,
as far as the monopole, that's set where that's going,
that's set in that back location there.
it's been pre-approved that.
Yep, yep, and I think we're gonna do it in the design of a tree.
Okay.
Yep, so that's all set, and I think we're waiting for, you know, the painting and bids and all that stuff, but,
Okay.
yep,
But that's been 100% approved to go in that location?
yes, yep.
And that'll never be 5G, that'll only be 4G?
It'll be whatever's,
Existing.
Existing
Yeah, I think
there.
that's 4G. right?
yeah.
Okay.
Can we put lights on it and make that the town tree?
You could. What else? I could read
Any
one.
questions you have, guys? This is why we're supposed to, this is why this is set up. Whatever questions you have,
So,
except personnel.
yeah,
Can't talk about personnel.
How are you guys determining who's going to be at, like, because I know obviously with too many of you, then becomes a quorum and it has to be publicized and all that stuff. How are you guys gonna be determining who's there, and is it, questions should be based on like the committee you cover or anything like that, or, I mean, I know
So for
in
these town
general
halls?
it's town hall, but.
it's really just based on availability and schedule and stuff like that. And the questions could be anything from any of the committees to anything you guys wanna talk about, other than personnel and litigation.
I mean, there, hopefully at some point in time, we're all up here. There's just that, according to the attorney, the way he explained it to me, is that we just have to send out notice saying that we're all gonna be present. Because once you're all here, then it's
I mean,
not-
yeah, cause then we get into the Open Public Meeting Act where we have to have, Eileen here doing minutes, and we have to have all that, you know, stuff, so we thought this would be just better on a smaller scale. And then we have the non-resident taxpayer meeting, and it's gonna be in September now, and that's more members, that's the police chief, that's the fire, that's EMS, a couple of local businesses and stuff like that.
Mayor, on these cell tower things, how is this now going to affect the water towers that has?
So that's separate, right? So these are the 5G poles. The water tower's still gonna have that monopole that's gonna be constructed in the back lot of the water property over here.
Everything that's on that tower is gonna
Is
be
this
gone.
gonna
It's all
be,
coming
right?
It's all coming off, it's gonna be
It's
moved
gonna
to the
go onto the
monopole.
monopole.
There's gonna be nothing on the water tower.
Going to be cleaned off?
It's gonna be,
cleaned up,
it's gonna be totally
repainted,
redone.
and with the new logo up top.
And that was the $100,000 project, painting over there or something?
Yeah, that's.
It's
I
more
don't
than
know exactly,
100,000.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's more than
A
100.
million, $1.5 million.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
So that's going to still happen?
Yes.
That has to happen. That's required by law every 10 years. It needs to be rehabilitated.
So all that'll be taken down with
All that's gonna be gone.
Yep.
Yeah. The issue that they determined was that the tower was no longer structurally sound enough for that equipment to go back on. It needed to be removed, put on a monopole, and that tower needs to be reinforced, redone, and refurbished, and that's the challenge.
the costs of the monopole and the transferring of the antenna, that's all being taken care of?
That's all covered 100%
Not
by the
coming out of
carriers.
By the carriers.
That's not an expense to the
Fantastic.
taxpayers.
John?
Has anyone done any research on like how many poles that we actually need for the spread of, you know, this 4G, for the size of this town and for the network? It seems as though it's overbearing for a 1 square mile town that we're having. I'm sorry, walking over
Yeah, no.
70 poles, is that
Well,
correct?
it's not that they're installing 70
They're not,
poles.
right.
They've identified 70 possible locations, because they have to have it all over the town.
Do we know how many they're planning on installing?
So right now, there's 11 that's definitely being installed, and then they'll, I guess, maybe do a study or see what the effectiveness of those 11 are before they do more. So we don't know the exact number yet, but to Councilman's point, there's 74 locations identified.
I mean, can we reach out to maybe other towns and see what other towns are doing? And
Sure. Yeah,
just a little research.
Yeah. We
On
could do
the
that.
spread of, you know, these towers.
yeah. There's other
I
towns.
mean,
that-
I would agree, you should know what a tower's capabilities.
And I'm sure the professionals have that, yeah, but we can reach out to them in the other towns.
We're small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they wanted it like every half a mile for the big poles.
Plant things in
When
it.
Declan was here, I don't know if you guys were here for that meeting. Declan Scanlon was here. Their thought process is to have a cell tower every half a mile. I know we have a couple of them. We aren't that big, but the 5G is totally separate thing.
I know we had him come in as a professional, but is he actual professional? Because I did check in his background, and he actually is a Wi-Fi, he owns like a Wi-Fi business, so he's a businessman in that.
So he's like a consulting firm.
Yeah, like he really wasn't able to answer professional questions. He was really a salesperson for that job. He's like an in-between guy. He really wasn't an actual professional to answer your questions, like what would the effects be on people? Like what are the effects on the environment? Like how many do you actually need in what area? He's really a salesperson. If you look him up, he's a Wi-Fi consultant and he owns some type of side business.
And so Lisa, remember, I brought in another consultant too,
Yes.
who, and again, because I just wanted to get a second opinion, but he substantiated everything that Declan did say about, at least with the monopole. He did say, because remember, I asked,
Engineers that they brought in.
right,
But we should find out, like you're saying,
Well, yeah, I
about
agree.
the distance with the
on
poles.
the
because
5G, yep,
a lot of these companies will send in a professional that they're really just salespeople. They're really just telling, you know, we don't know any different, you know, like,
right.
we don't know, but they're making a lot of money on all of this. It's all big money,
Yep.
so.
So I have a note to take that back and do some, research into other towns and ask the provider. What else?
Just go over the upgrades going on at the band shell.
Sure. So, the band shell is getting both physical and audio video upgrades. So the actual existing structure, there's some ceiling, 4x4 and plywood that's coming down, so we're fixing all that. The 2 columns, we're squaring off to make them look really nice. Both columns are gonna have, video screens on both, mounted to both top columns. We're bringing in, audio and video vendor who's gonna do a, motorized drop-down movie screen, with pretty top-notch audio system. So that, for 2 reasons. I'd love to see movies in the park, you know, in the fall, be able at night, be able to pull the screen down, and then have events for kids and, you know, residents. But also for when we do our concert series, which is very successful. We pay a ton of money to bring in, you know, bands to do all their audio setup. So hopefully here, we'll have the back line, they call it. I'm learning all these industry terms. That it'll be easier, so they won't need to bring all their equipment, maybe a little bit that they can plug into. But we tested it out. I know, EJ, you heard it yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, the sound is fantastic. So, to me, the band shell is just super underutilized. We're gonna cut down the Phragmites around the lake, around the band shell area. So we could now look out on the lake and see the reflection of the boardwalk and the lake, which is gonna be cool. So I'd love to be able to use that band shell more. We could do open mic night, we could do a bunch of things. The other big improvement is the bathroom. So right now, there's one porta potty. And I use this analogy, but if anybody's been at a concert series in the middle of July, you know, at 9 o'clock at night, you do not want to use that facility at all. So we're bringing in a bathroom trailer. So I believe it's 3 male, 3 female, kind of like the trailer you see along the boardwalk. I think Jenks has one. This is going to be temporary for the season. It's going to be only open and accessible during town events at the band shell. It's going to be locked right after the event and then cleaned the next day. It's going a little bit to the right of the War Memorial along the Phragmites in the back. It's not going to obstruct the War Memorial. It's not going to desecrate the War Memorial. The only reason why it's going there is because the water hookup is right there, and that's really and it's a clearing that they could get the trailer in and out. I wanted to do it in the back of the band shell, but you have houses along Trenton and Baltimore there, and it's just logistically you can't get the trailer into that area. So again, it's not going to be in the War Memorial. It's going to be somewhat to the right. But that's going to be a huge upgrade for people attending events that are going to have a nice restroom to use.
It's basically a real restroom.
It's a real
running-
restroom.
Running
Right.
water,
Yeah,
flushing
yeah,
toilets.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
not Looking
It's not a
into-
porta potty.
If you go to PNC and you have like VIP tickets, that's what they have. They have a
Yeah.
trailer bathroom,
Right.
you
Exactly.
step up and
Exactly.
it'll be designated like female and male,
Yes.
it'll be 2 separate ones?
Two sides, it's two
Two
sides.
sides.
2 sides.
Yeah, one trailer, 2 sides. I believe there's ramps for ADA.
Two separate
and stuff like that.
stairwells.
Yep.
Oh, perfect.
Yep, and then at the end of the season, whenever that is, whenever our last event is at the band shell, it'll be trailered off and it'll be gone until next year. So I'm very excited. I think it's gonna be a huge upgrade to the band shell. I'm a little nervous about vandalism there because we've had vandalism in the past. We have that portable police trailer now. The police are gonna mount cameras throughout the band shell, so they'll have better sight going on. But it's gonna be fantastic. The first event is June 8th, which is Battle of the Band, so hopefully everybody comes out for that. They promised me they're gonna get all this done before June 8th, so I'm looking forward to that. Okay, Greg.
You know, it'd be nice, is, benches and tables around the bench shell and bike racks.
Yes, yep, so we talked about, again, the thing we have to worry about is just the vandalism and stuff. We do have some benches, I think, they bring them out in the summertime. I'll make a note, I mean, picnic tables would be great to, you know, people that wanna come and bring food and instead of sitting on a blanket to eat, they could do that. And bike racks are important. Robbie, you had a question back there?
Just speaking of the, bathrooms, last meeting, one of the agenda items was, about $40,000 or $50,000 for repair costs for the restroom, I believe.
So those are the ones, by the,
District 2 and the inlet,
what's that?
District 2 and the inlet,
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
just normal repair, you
Yeah.
know, for every year?
yeah,
Okay.
yep. What else?
Just with regard to those tables at the band shell, whoever decides to place them, just make sure you leave space for the dance floor, cause a lot of these,
Yes.
events,
Yeah.
dancing breaks out.
You're right, you're right. And it's funny though, right? So some events, people line their blankets on the dance floor, other times they leave it open. So yeah, if we had benches around and stuff, it'll, make people stay off there so people could dance. But yeah, I mean, you get the Anthony DiDios come in and everyone's up and dancing and stuff, so a lot of good bands bring some good supporters, so.
So pivoting on audio visual, are there any plans to upgrade this room? Because, you know, the council meetings, as you know, a lot of attention live stream, which I think is super beneficial, both, you know, we have half the town are non-residents, who's watching exactly, a lot of people watch. And also when you have meetings here, so for example, Environmental Commission, we might wanna have a speaker. The videos or the slides are over there and the people are sitting here, so it just seems like with so much emphasis on engagement that maybe some upgrades would be beneficial.
So we did upgrade the speaker system already, in the room here, though. So the audio system should be better, although I heard at the last meeting, I guess the microphone was too close to Eileen, you heard a bunch of
Yeah,
type.
all you do is stand up.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that the next meeting that stops.
Better silent keyboard.
Yeah. I heard that the video I know is a little granulated and you can't really tell, who's talking when you're, up here. we could work with the audio and video vendor and see if they could fix that. I do want to get a bracket there so that you could pivot out the TV and stuff like that. That was on my to-do list before, you know, the audio video issues came up, so, I'll make a note of that. That seems like a pretty easy fix, just to get a bracket. And as far as, you know, the other aesthetics in the room, I know we just painted it, we just put new carpet down and stuff.
No, it's.
Yeah, yeah.
How about, consideration of positioning where the public comes to speak, so that you can see the front of them? Because it's hard to hear Christine Real,
Right.
although I haven't noticed.
Still, is it
I
still
don't
even
know,
with the
I haven't-
upgrade?
I don't know.
It's still hard to
Still
hear.
hard, okay.
And then
She
the
needs 4
public-
microphones.
Yeah, she's very soft-spoken.
I think it's intentional, I think she put it, she's just so soft-spoken. But it's hard to hear the public, and I see we have the, you know, beautiful stand over there. If we could position it so that if the public could speak, I mean, the camera's on the council, but you could also capture the public, and maybe we just oriented that, you know, sideways. So that
Yeah.
You could address the council, they could address you as the mayor, but you could also perhaps capture them better on video and audio.
We'd have to logistically look at that, because technically they should be focused in on the
Yeah,
mayor and council,
but
but
you can do
yeah,
both.
so we could figure out a way to, I mean, I don't know if, you know, if it's worth putting another camera there just to, you know, I don't know. But I'll make a note of that and see what we can do.
It would also help just see who's talking, you know, because some people are enunciate much better and some don't
On the council, right.
And so then you wouldn't even need to necessarily identify their voice, you could actually see who's talking and furthermore, who's on their phone, who's rolling their eyes, who's falling asleep.
Right. Right, yeah. Yeah, so we could look into that, and yeah, so I know that camera, again, it's set far back, but we'll see if we can upgrade that, or at least maybe move it up a little bit. Dave?
Speaking of bike racks, are they up on like boardwalk yet? I haven't been up there yet to check it out, but last year, it was probably beginning of July.
Okay.
And they sat in public works for.
They were still sitting in public works yesterday when I drove by.
Yeah, and I was up there the other day, I didn't see any, but we'll make sure that now that the weather's getting nicer, we'll deploy them out.
I think last year, supposedly, rumor was, they put them out and then somebody stole a couple of them. So I don't know, I don't even know how that even happens, but,
They're so valuable.
I know.
They put one little one at the end.
Yeah.
I'll look into it.
And he's gonna buy James by Mother's Day. Because
Right.
last year Mother's Day was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
We were running bikes, I think, and so I actually did an informal, survey of bike racks around them, and there's just not enough near the boardwalk.
Okay.
We literally can't almost come back to our house to park our bikes.
Because there was no spots.
You know, because you can't connect them to fence, which is a different thing.
Okay.
But, we should look at how do we service the people, trying to avoid parking.
Okay. Yep. John?
We had a conversation about the building department, I know you probably can't talk about personnel issues, but I think it's been an ongoing issue for the past 5 or 6 years. I've spoken to multiple people, builders, plumbers, electricians, architects, engineers, everyone have had major concerns with the building department. And I know you guys all know about it. The point I'm trying to make here is, we've made some mistakes in the past, and that's fine, I'm not looking to go back to the past. But going forward, I think it's imperative that whoever you choose for the position is someone that, number one, has all their credentials, certifications, whatever it is, and number two, has a certain amount of experience in development. I would say minimum of 5 years experience. And you can talk to people, my personal experience has been absolutely awful. For the past 5 years, I'd spend tens of thousands of dollars, okay, fighting the town because of certain issues. And it should not be that way, okay? It just shouldn't be that way. And multiple people have complained, and it's been ongoing. And so I just don't want that same mistake to happen again, where we just kind of throw somebody in there, and then we have to wait 5 or 10 years for that person to leave again.
No, I agree, and that's, I mean, the three of us up here are dedicated to, I mean, Councilman Ramos has been, you know, dedicated for the last 2 years in helping to fix that. I know, Councilman Gant and I have been working on ordinances and stuff like that, so we are dedicated to, fixing the building department. Again, I can't go into personnel, but, there's some things that are gonna happen over the next few weeks that I think are gonna make a drastic improvement in that building department. So.
Specifically, you know, the person that's running the building department, you know? I believe the person that was there previously did not have experience, and it showed.
Yeah.
So we have to have somebody that has experience in all the certifications, so we don't get into these issues again.
Yeah, and the personnel committee and Christine Reel, and myself will be involved in all those decisions. But yeah, I think we're setting it up to be a huge improvement.
Can I have like a breakdown to how the personnel committee, like how does that happen? I know we're not talking about personnel. How do we finalize? How does that happen in the step of like step one? And where does that come to the final step? Like, is it a final vote with council and they're the ones that, you know, say, okay, and they vote and that's how that person then becomes in place? Is that the only way that happens?
So yeah, if there's any personnel decisions in town, the personnel committee will meet with Christine Reel. And we will discuss the hiring, they will, you know, Christine will do most of the interviews. Whoever the department head would help with the interviews. Christine will then present all the findings to the personnel committee, go through the results of the interviews, and then the personnel committee discusses it internally. And then, based on their feeling that, you know, based on their, responses would be then, final say would be on a council agenda, and the council will then vote on it.
And who's on the personnel?
It's myself, it's, Councilwoman Burns and Councilwoman Crowley.
Anybody, can I keep going?
Okay.
Okay, so, I've been very public about the fact of, and I've pointed out multiple times that in the past, and I'd actually love to hear feedback from all of you on this. Councilwoman Burns and Crowley in the past have recused themselves from building department votes because of a conflict of interest. And they have still a conflict of interest with the building department. So where are we on, that seems like they shouldn't be voting on things.
So again, that kind of goes into the legal personnel matters, so we can't comment on that, but, I mean, publicly, you've seen me, ask for them to recuse themselves on votes. We can't really dive into that because, again, it's a personnel or you know, potential litigation matter, but, again, I asked them to recuse themselves.
Can the other council members like Gant and Pizzola and Mr. Ramos, if they voted to have them recuse themselves? Like if the
a councilman's recusal is their choice. And that's the education that I got with it. You know, the attorney advises the council, and the attorney might advise certain council people that they have a conflict of interest, and it would be in their best interest to abstain. But they still have, a council person has the right to do whatever they want to do. There's no legally binding issue there.
So, okay, so I'm just again, because I know we were talking about too about the words about bullying and things get thrown around a lot, but it's, the reality is like that's its own form of abuse of power if you probably shouldn't be doing something and yet you still choose to do it. I think that's another form of taking abuse of something.
And I've been vocal that, you know,
It's an
there's,
interesting way to look at it.
yeah, and I've been vocal that there's ways to, outside of our municipality to handle those, issues, which I've been working on, but that's really all I can say about it.
Okay.
So can I ask, so they're on the personnel committee and they have outstanding issues with the building department. Can they recuse themselves, or should they, from the personnel committee when it comes to the hiring of someone in the building department? Is there anything in place that someone else could fill in for them on that committee?
Again, to the councilman's point, I mean, it's self.
It's up to them.
It's up to them. And,
Okay.
you know, we were all here January 1st, so, you know, we saw who was put on committees and stuff.
Okay.
I was on the building and Code Committee last year, and the year before that, with Councilwoman Testa, who has been the chair for many, many years. And one of the things I tried to do was, when I first came on board, I learned of a severe backlog, and I tried to get an idea as to how bad the backlog was and things like that. And I have some experience with it, so I really dove into it and gave some guidance and gave some benefit. I'm no longer on that committee, so I'm not sure exactly where things are. I know things that I implemented, that I requested be implemented, and they were, and there was some progress being made. But again, I think that it's an ongoing process, and I think that there's some changes coming that are gonna be very beneficial. I think to that part.
How come you're not on that committee anymore?
I'm just not on it.
And it's another bullying tactic that we're all talking about.
I mean, I was very vocal about it.
I know,
spoke
I know.
about it at the council.
Well, it
meeting.
just shows you're well qualified, you should still be on there.
Well, and that's fine, and, you know, people felt they wanted to share the experience, so, that's fine.
Mhm.
I'm still very vocal about it.
Right.
I'm still not quiet about things.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
trying to
we
be as
feel you
transparent
should
as
still be on
possible.
there. You've
So,
done a lot.
but you know, we keep plugging away.
As we will.
There's no ordinance that you could propose to limit, obviously, a situation like this from happening?
So we are looking, so our ordinances right now say if you're on a committee as a liaison, you're there for the entire calendar year. Councilman Ramos brought up at the last meeting to work with the attorney to look into amending some of our ordinances to handle situations like this. So, you know, that'll be hopefully something that we could implement down the pike.
That would be voted on by all the.
It would have to be voted on to pass. It'd be an ordinance, so we go through the introduction and second reading, yes.
Not to change the subject, but it was rather refreshing to read some good news in the Ocean Star with the write-up about the Coast Guard building and how positive an effect that's had on the town. What is the town's plans for the building that we now are in possession of?
So, that's a great question. I know we all toured it together. To me, it's a blank slate, right? I mean, it needs a little bit of work. It needs some ADA compliance. But I think there's possibilities to have meetings in there. I think there's possibilities to bring the Historic Preservation Commission over there. There's a beautiful kitchen and mess hall, I guess you call it, downstairs. So there's thoughts that if we brought in an outside vendor and maybe serve food, it'd be great for the people at the inlet, you know, who want to come and grab some food. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts, but
We've also secured with that purchase, we've secured 4 spots
Right.
in their lot that's right next to it. In addition, as a town, we are adding 10 more parking spaces at that area on the inlet there. All those yellow lines, it's a very wide turn there, so we're gonna be adding 10 parking spaces there as well. I think some of the thought process was that it could, you know, it could function as a community center for the town as well as be
Well,
a
that would be the
historic.
hope. I
Yeah.
mean, it
To
would
be
make
a-
a
to
great
be-
showpiece for the
To
town.
be a historic, area as well with different things displayed on the walls or whatever, like kind of like a changing motif, if you will. But one of the thought processes is, you know, there is a beautiful kitchen facility that's in there. Obviously, some of the stuff needs to be replaced, but you know, I have experience in hotels and food and beverage, and replacing that equipment is not a very expensive proposition to do. The thing is, there's just so many other things that are more important structurally and things like that that we're doing currently on it to make sure that it's inhabitable. But it's got some neat spaces in there. The second floor area has meeting spaces. The first floor area has meeting spaces. One thought process was like a grab-and-go type of kitchen thing where somebody can have, you know, we used to have years and years ago, but those of you who have been around a while, there used to be Waffles and More was on that one corner where the bathroom is now, and there was another takeout. I remember a place where that Modern Point Park is, there was something that was outcropping there that served food. So, you know, right now we have down there Singer Steakhouse, and, you know,
Yeah.
I love Singer Steakhouse, it's great, but it's not exactly a grab and go kind of place. So a place, if you're fishing, you can go grab a cup of coffee, you can go grab something to eat, go grab some breakfast. You know, so that's a thought process as well. There's a lot of ideas. Like the mayor said, it's a clean slate, so you have really the ability to make it whatever we wanna make it. There's some neat office space in there too. So it's a work in progress. I think from my notes, there's a change of command ceremony scheduled for July 10th at 10 a.m. Going to be open to the public. It's their official handing over to the town. They do a whole ceremony with the Coast Guard. So that's a neat thing. And I think, look, I think it's a great. There are people that have feelings about the Coast Guard station, about the money that was spent. To me, it is a piece of history of this town. It is, you go past, I drive past that building, every time I drive past that, I have to look at it, because it's just such a neat piece of property. It's in a neat location, and it's got a lot of history there. So I think it's they even had ammunition lockers. There were closet doors that had the holes for circulation that were punched in, and people were like, well, let's hold it. That's where they stored the ammunition. You know, keep that character, keep that stuff there, keep the command center's lettering on the door. You know, it's just part of the charm, part of the stairwell, the ladder, rope ladder stairwell that goes to the lighthouse portion of it. It's old, it's historic, it's from 1920, 1930, and it's just a neat looking building. So we're excited about that, and I think it's something that's really gonna bring a lot of extra character to the town. It's a work in progress. Stay tuned.
Or any thoughts on that?
No, I like everything that Mike said. We do have office space over there, so there are some, office space challenges that we have, even some that we have here in this building. So there has been somewhat talk that way we occupying that building as well for some office spaces. But you know, it's good to get input from everybody. That's why everybody's here. You know, let's see where we go with it. It definitely should be used. I think it would be great.
There's a shipping container right out here that was put there after Sandy. I heard that holds all the historical items that were supposed to be going into the building. Is that gonna happen?
Yeah, so there's plans for that as well, yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't solidified anything yet, but.
There's
that's one of the
refurbishment
thought-
work that needs to
Yeah,
go.
I think
We're not at a
we have
point
some.
of anything being put in there yet.
That Coast Guard building needs some love.
Yeah.
So I think they're holding off before they stick stuff in there.
Just think it would be great, you know, school tours, having
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
from the Coast Guard, or
Yeah.
a retired Coast Guard person there.
Yep.
Maybe even working as a recruiting office for them, just to show the history of what's there and what can be moving forward.
Yeah.
Oh, look, the Coast Guard station is right across the street. It's right there. They're not going anywhere. They've been there for 100 years. They're not going. They built a brand new facility, so they're always gonna be a resource.
Right.
They're always gonna be there, and there's several members of the Coast Guard that are there, and officers that are there that live there, that know it. They know the history of it, so they got lots of great stories. So it's a neat thing, and something that we're really gonna take advantage of as a town, and really make it something special for the town.
Did you have a question?
I'm just gonna ask, were there any plans to clean up that inlet, the parking lot? Because now it's all, the paving is up in spots, and where they moved the benches, the cabins broke.
In the inlet itself?
The inlet parking lot is gonna be completely refurbished.
Yeah, after,
Right after
the tug of war, yeah, oh, the tug of war,
After
not
the tug of war, after the tug of war.
Yep, yeah, at the end of this year.
Remember they have they put up that little gate with the locks on it? That's all weeds now. Is there any plans on getting that cleaned out?
Yeah, we'll have that cleaned out. We'll have DPW go down there and clean up. And the problem now, right, and it's existing, is whenever we have a big storm and the waves come over, just kicks all the gravel up, right? So the thought is that we're gonna make that all pavement down below. It was supposed to be done last year, it got delayed, but it will be done after the tug of war in October. They'll start construction.
When we were talking about that last year, there was a consideration that maybe the direction of traffic would change, which, that way when you park, you'd be facing the ocean. Is that under consideration?
I brought that up, but it doesn't seem like it's got, yeah, I thought it'd be a cool idea.
I like that idea as well.
Well, cause on the
It's just,
Manasquan side,
yeah.
Manasquan side is considered the better side.
Yeah.
Because you park in face ocean,
You can actually look at the inlet.
and ours, it's the other way, so I imagine that's a big undertaking with
Yeah.
roads and things like that, but that would seem to be a good medium-term plan. I'd like, have,
I mean, I kicked it around already, again, I didn't think that it got so
is that
much.
under council control, or is that like a county road, or we gotta get under?
It'd be more than just the council, has to, I mean, the engineer would have to weigh in and
Yeah.
stuff like that,
The
but,
restaurants have, their entries may be.
right, so it's a little more than just the
Right,
council
but it
deciding.
seems like a worthwhile thing to consider.
Yeah.
Because people, as we know, people look this as the inlet and idle, and we want to.
Yeah, yeah.
turn off
They
their
might have
cars.
changed some of the curb cuts on
And,
the
Yeah,
west end.
it'd be really great.
yeah, but that's something we could take under advisement and try again.
I agree with you.
Robbie, first, sorry.
Dave Navro brought up, something about,
Hold on, Rob.
Let the train go by real quick.
Train.
If we do something about this guy?
Yeah.
Seriously.
One guy.
There's one guy, I know,
Yeah, that's the younger one.
yeah.
I know a guy.
Looking up early,
I know a
yeah,
guy.
one
Gotta
guy.
take care of that guy.
Go ahead, Rob.
Dave Navro, brought up like a couple council meetings, ago about, some rental ordinance or whatever, I think Seaside was proposing or something like that.
I think Councilman Pasola brought that up too, right, the under 18,
I don't know,
yeah.
I don't remember I know the attorney, said he was gonna keep an eye on it, I was just wondering.
We heard from the attorney last week or 2 weeks ago that he's still keeping an eye on it.
Okay.
I don't think anything's been solidified.
Yeah, they're
and-
playing out
And
in court.
kind of waiting to see how that one turns out, because that'll determine what's gonna be determined legal or not legal.
Yeah.
And what, yeah,
The question was that if they could rent to anybody, under the age of 21, is what I think you're referring to down at Seaside. That's what it was.
If that's what he brought up, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was Seaside, I don't
Seaside's
know.
pushing that you gotta be at least 21 or over to rent the property down there. And it looks like they're gonna get away with it, from my understanding, but we're being, like Doug said, we did get word last week that they're monitoring what's going on down there for us up here.
so while we're talking about rentals, and Dave, I'll get to you in a second, there was a question, has the council started a rewrite of the rental ordinance yet? If so, when is that scheduled to be completed? If not, what is the plan? I personally don't think we need to rewrite the rental ordinance. I think the only thing we need to do with that is to try and eradicate the loopholes that exist in the ordinance, but I mean, and you guys speak for yourself, but I don't think we should be rewriting the rental ordinance. I think it's helped tremendously, in stopping, the party atmosphere that's been going on here. So, I mean, if the council decides to do that, then that's, obviously I don't have a vote, but I think the way it's written now, again, the only thing I'd wanna look at is to make sure that, cause we have people that are, during the season where they say we're renting for a week and they're really only there on the weekends. And I've been told by homeowners that, my neighbor, they were there, Friday to Sunday, they left and, they're supposed to have it for a week. So we're trying to see if there's a way to stop those loopholes, but other than that,
I've spoken to many friends in town that had situations prior to us having this ordinance in place, and in every single case, at least 7 or 8 that I've spoken to, all were very positive about it, and they felt that it made a major change. Think about it, think about what our homes are worth now. I know what I paid for my home years ago when I bought it, and I know what my home is worth now. And it's a valuable asset. It's gonna help me retire someday. So I don't wanna do anything that's gonna jeopardize that asset. And I think it's fair that, look, we are a resort town. We knew it was a resort town. I've heard that argument too, folks. I've heard you live in a resort town, so yes, but that doesn't mean people can be allowed to behave like animals. It doesn't mean that people can bend the rules and do whatever they want. And I think that it's a nice melding of the two different dichotomies that exist with having a resort environment and having year-round residents. I mean, I 40 years in hotels and resorts. One of the resorts I had was in the Pocono Mountains, Pocono Manor Resort, it's a town. It wasn't, there were homes there, there were year-round residents that lived there. It was basically 5.5 square miles, it was 5 times the size of Point Pleasant Beach, but it had much less population. But again, it's a matter of you have to do what's best for the overall situation, and I think that's what was done. I wasn't involved in the rental ordinance, but I supported it sitting out in that audience, because I saw firsthand what was happening to this town. And a lot of homes were getting just solely for investment standpoint of bringing in more partiers, and that's detrimental to our property values, it's detrimental to our school district, with not having families and things like that. So this helped reverse that course. I think we're seeing some positive change from that, and I agree with the mayor, we need to close up the loopholes, because it's 4 years in now, and people realized ways that they can kind of skirt around and play around, and we need to make sure that that's not happening.
What department is responsible for enforcing?
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Doug and I have met on the same thing. I'm in agreement with both of these guys. You know, Doug and I are trying to look at other ordinances. We did discuss the rental ordinance. We really don't want to get involved with the rental ordinance. We think it's good with what's in place right now. We did discuss some of the loopholes, but, you know, understand if we fix one loophole, somebody's gonna jump on and try to do something else, right? If you fix that, somebody's gonna try to do something else. Are we gonna always be able to fix every single thing? Maybe not. What's in place right now is pretty good. The biggest loophole is like what Doug was saying. The owner says, hey, I'm renting it out for a week from Monday to Monday. That person leaves on Wednesday, the next person comes on Friday. Somebody goes over there and they're like, oh, I was here all week, my mom or dad was here Monday through Wednesday, I'm here for the weekend. How you prove it?
Yeah.
But, you know, the biggest thing is the partying, the out of controls and stuff like that. As long as that's kind of like not happening.
Is there a way that they maybe can provide?
Are we creating a problem?
A list of their renters, like?
They're required to do that.
They're required
now.
to do that.
They're required to do that now.
How much is the fine for doing that?
Yeah.
I don't know offhand, it's pretty,
It's a few $100s.
yeah,
But I think it's like,
yeah.
if you're cited once, and if you're
There's-
twice,
right.
and then if it's a third time, you can't rent.
You can't rent
You
for
lose
two
years.
years.
They're actually pulled the CO, there was a discussion.
They'll pull the
about
CO.
that.
Yeah. So I spoke in favor of that ordinance when, it was proposed. I think the VRBO and the Airbnb has helped to totally change the complexion of who is renting. And, people were renting on our lane, the owners live in upstate New York. And there were cars there from Michigan, one night Michigan, and next night maybe Tennessee, and in the winter, when it's dark and lonely up there, I don't know who's in that house, and the owner doesn't know who's in that house, they've just put out there, so I wouldn't change anything, and if you can tighten it up or somehow, I mean, I don't wanna be the narc in the neighborhood, but, you know, it already started, one of my neighbors, you know, they showed up on Friday and the people left on Sunday.
The ordinance was a result of residents yelling
Yeah.
their displeasure
Yeah.
with what's going on in the town. And as a council, we need to listen to the residents, and we need to take that. And one thing we're hearing right now from the residents is that people are starting to play games with this, you know? So, yeah, we gotta tighten it up. I mean, that's it. Look, laws and ordinances and codes are meant to be changed. You know what? We don't always get it right the first time. Sometimes, you know, and you try it. And I think that was something that was said from the dais. I sat out there in the audience. And on the dais, it was said, look, we gotta start somewhere. So we're gonna try this, and it can be tweaked, and it can be changed. And that's the great thing about ordinances and codes. They can be tweaked and they can be changed to meet the needs of the town. And I think that's where we're at now. I think we're at a point where it needs to be tweaked and it needs to be changed a little bit to ensure that it's doing what it was meant to do, which was to maintain the quality of life in Point Pleasant Beach.
And to your point, Mary Jean, about, well, not being a narc, but the cops encourage, right? So if there's a party going on and
Dark
it's
away.
10:30, 11 o'clock, they want the residents to call.
That was gonna be my
And-
question.
Yeah.
We should continue
You
to
should
call, because
absolutely.
I almost feel guilty
No,
bothering them
No,
with
they,
the noise
I've talked to
complaint.
the chief and they encourage that. You know, we have the animal house ordinance that says after a certain amount of time, then the owner of the house gets fined. So they want, even if it's a busy July, Saturday night, they want you to call. They may not be there right away, but they'll be there eventually, and they'll handle that. So, yes. so-
They have the wherewithal to handle all the calls.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. And the great thing about every call is documented, every call is documentation. And if it's a specific call about a specific issue, a specific home, it's documented.
Right, and if
Whereas if, well,
that
I don't
home
wanna, you know,
shows
you
up-
wanna be the
right.
good guy and you don't wanna report it, well, they're getting away with it.
Yeah.
And it's
I'm the
not
one who
documented.
Wait, Dave, I know we waited on you. Sorry, John. what is it?
Are we still using that GovAlert app for like?
Report a concern type stuff? Yes, is it?
The GovAlert?
Yep.
No, I haven't heard of that either.
Yeah.
Report
I've
it,
used
sorry.
it.
So it's
Gov-
GovAlert. It's
GovPilot?
part of GovPilot, but it's called GovAlert.
And then it's really easy
And
to
then
want
if-
to report a concern.
You can report a concern on it, so if if there's a pothole in front of your street, your neighbor's car is parked on the, blocking you or something, you put it in, and that goes straight to, several people in town hall, code enforcement, I believe the police may have access to that as well, but, yeah.
So it's app.
So is that your question, are we still using it?
Yeah, we're still using.
Yeah, I encourage everybody, if you don't have it, to download the app. Yeah,
So it's an app, just GovAlert?
GovAlert, yep.
Oh, wow.
One word, I just looked it up, GOVAL.
Yep, and then from there, you could just report a concern, and again, that gets all logged and traced, and then goes right to the queue for whatever department needed.
How many people, I'm sorry, are working in code enforcement now? Kristen Franco?
So Kristen's transitioned to zone, but she's still doing it, Brian Martin, yeah, so we probably have, and then John
And-
Pizzola is doing it
and
on
John
part-time, yeah.
Is part-time?
Yeah, and that's gonna change a little bit as we kind of move
Okay.
forward, but yeah, right now there's 3.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any update with the 7 PM curfew on the beach?
So that's perfect, so let's talk about the beach for a little bit, yes. All right, so, I mentioned this at the last council meeting, myself, Councilman Gant, Councilwoman Burns, Christine Real, the chief, Lieutenant Daniel, had a meeting with all the beach owners, so Jenkinson's all the way down. We talked about 3 things, we talked about the beach curfew, we talked about the cooler size, and we talked about the beach access. We were able to get increased cooler size, and thanks Councilman Gant for doing all the legwork and research on that. So we increased the cooler size on that. The beach access points, DEP has come down hard on Jenks as we saw last year. And we just had a meeting with DEP last week. So they're coming down hard on the private beach clubs that they have to have unfettered access to their beaches. They pay, there's government money that's being spent to do the sand and replenishment. So part of that is they have to have access to the, public access to the high water line. The curfew came up, and there were several people, business owners, beach owners and police department that didn't want to change the 7 PM curfew. Now, one thing again with me is I'm not gonna go against our professionals. If the chief says 7 PM and has a valid reason why, which I think he did, I'm not gonna challenge that. And the other thing is I'm not gonna jeopardize the safety and security of the town to make a few residents happy. Look, I get it, we all live in a beach town, we should be able to access the beach. I got flack for that on social media. There's been talks going on now, and I can't publicly state anything now, but there's talks behind the scenes. I have meetings tomorrow to see if we could come up with a solution for the 7 PM. It's not gonna be 24/7.
At least for residents to go all year round.
And that's the thing, is we can't discriminate we can't say, hey, residents, you could go up and, you could pay this much for a badge or whatever, or you could go up and, anybody else from Monmouth County can't. So we can't segregate just the residents versus non-residents, so we have to kind of work through that. That being said, there's 3 activities that you could do 24/7, and that's walking the high water line, fishing, and surfing, right? And the cops have said that, that as long as you're walking the high water line or moving around, they're not gonna go after you. If you're sitting down with, a cooler and you won't need an umbrella after 7, it gets dark. But if you're sitting down with a book and a flashlight, they're gonna ask you to, either move around or leave the beach. I said it at the last council meeting, I posted it online, if anybody gets removed for walking the high water line or fishing or surfing, I wanna know about it, because I'm gonna go through Christine and we're gonna reach out to the beach owners. But, again, I wanted to publicly say something tonight, I can't, we're still working behind the scenes, but I think we've come up with a solution to the 7 PM.
Just know, if you wanna go for a walk, you can access the beach access points. There are gates there, right? We were assured that none of the gates are locked, the gates should not be locked. Okay, if they're locked, please let us know. You should be able to walk through the gate.
You talking Jenkinson's Beach, or are you talking?
Not Jenkinson's, I'm talking.
So this is good, so
Basically south of Trent.
Trenton Avenue
Trenton Ave
south,
south to Maryland Ave.
but we'll talk about Jenkinson's, yeah, you finish your point.
But you can access the beaches at this point going forward. We did meet with DEP, like Doug said last week. That's been one of the big concerns, access to the beach. Even if it's nighttime, if you wanna go for a walk, you can let them know. I know some private beaches, I think it's Bradshaw's, they actually pay somebody to be security there. Just let him know. I'm just walking down to the high water line, I'm going for a walk, I'm not sitting on the beach. Hopefully those rules start getting out and everybody knows, like, I can go for a walk. I'm just letting them know I'm going for a walk. But like Doug said, if you sit down on their beach, they're gonna ask you to get off the beach, because now you're not walking, you're not exercising, you're not running, you're not fishing, you're not surfing.
Unless you're sitting down on the beach with a fishing pole.
Yeah.
Well, there's ways, there's ways around that.
We fish, right, Chad?
Right, yeah.
Or you have a medical issue where you need to sit down.
There's
What's
all-
that?
Or you have a medical issue where you.
We need to sit down, right,
there's
and
al-
that could be
there's
explained
always a
to
loophole,
security, right?
So, but you do have access to the beach. I know that was a big problem. That's been rectified, hopefully moving forward, that's rectified. But the times were the times unless something changes. But we did, so far, right, as of now, you have access to the beach.
And there's gates up at, I believe, Bradshaw, and maybe a few others. We asked the DEP, do the gates have to come down? And they said it's really up to the beach owners. The gates have to be open. Now, in an extreme case of a hurricane offshore, where they want to secure the gates, that's allowable, that's fine. I believe there's some no trespassing signs up there. They have to come down, and we're addressing that as well. And I know last year Jenkinson's closed their access points. I worked, we have a very good relationship with the Sereno family and with all the Jenks employees, and DEP issued them some letters, and they told me that, their access points, maybe not all of them, but some of them are gonna be open. So there's gonna be access to get onto our beaches.
So the DEP's cannons are aimed at Point Pleasant Beach's beachfront right now. They're watching it very, very closely.
But access is fine, and I understand the idea of access to the beach. What happened prior to the ordinance being posted was you literally had a second group that would arrive in Point Pleasant Beach at 5:30 or 6 o'clock and take over the beaches. And they were swimming, and there was litter, and there was parties, and it was all left behind. And the next morning, it was up to the town, it was up to the private beach owners to go out and spend hours and dollars trying to clean up afterwards. So the idea of revoking that 7 PM ordinance, I think would be a mistake. I think if we clarify what access is to the people who live in the town or the people who visit the town, anybody wants to stroll along the beach,
Go for it.
go for it. Okay, that's fantastic. Take a stroll along the beach. If you're staying at one of the hotels or motels, that's what you're paying for, you're more than entitled to do it. But to have a group of 15 or 20 people show up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night with a dozen coolers and
Trays
a
of
barbecue
food.
grill
Yeah.
and party on the beach all night long, that's when we started to run into our problems.
Right.
All
But
of us
also,
ran into
but
problems.
also understand, Jenkins's is a private beach, right? So where they decide that they're gonna have their access point is not up for us to decide, right? So they might make it Jenks North, they might make it Jenks South, they might make it in the middle. I know people come up and they get frustrated because they were saying, well, you gotta go here, you gotta go there, well, now I gotta walk half a mile to get up there. We got it. They will be able to provide access, I believe, at a
Always
location.
at the inlet.
So,
Right, I think it's what, every
to
quarter
allow you to
mile?
get to the high
Yeah.
water
Quarter-
line.
Every quarter mile,
Oh,
they have to allow
yes.
access.
I think it's every half.
Was it
I
half?
think it's every half DEP last.
Is that just for Jenks or for anybody?
For any
For
beach?
anybody,
For any beach.
Yeah.
I thought it was a
So-
quarter mile too.
There's gonna be some trial and
It used to
error,
be
obviously,
40.
with some
When I
of the
was
beaches.
with Surf Riders.
When you try to access, cause there's gonna be some people that are gonna try to access, they're gonna probably be told no. Just please let us know, make us aware of it, so we can try
Well,
to.
if you have a beach that basically
Fine.
covers 2 streets, okay, and I'm gonna use the New York Avenue beach, it's New York Avenue in Philadelphia. It's got a gate on the Philadelphia Avenue side because it's dark, it's not patrolled, and there are a lot of reasons why that gate is there. But there is access always on New York Avenue. So to have the gate locked on Philadelphia doesn't become an issue as long as there's access on the New York Avenue ramp coming onto the beach, correct?
I mean, I can't speak for the DEP, but I would guess as long as there's access onto that beach, then you should be fine.
Now, how will it affect, cause I know, like, I had family that came down for like the fireworks a couple times, and they weren't allowed on the beach to watch the fireworks, they had everybody crammed on the boardwalk. And they left, they're like, we're never coming back for the fireworks again, because they said that, well, the town won't let us have the beach open after 7, so you all have to stand here like sardines to watch the fireworks.
So, I mean, obviously that's a Jenks thing. I know I go to Jenks North for the fireworks and they probably let people on around 8 o'clock, you know, probably an hour before fireworks go on. They let people sit on the beach and stuff like that. I don't know about the other access points. I mean, that's a conversation I'll make a note that
Yeah.
that we could have with the Serinos. And
Yeah, that was when they were shooting them off at the south end.
at the
I
south
guess.
end, yep, okay.
There's a couple spots where they let them on,
Yeah,
at, 8 o'clock or whatever it is, I don't think they do it by the inlet because that's where they shoot off.
no, they do, the inlet, they do.
Yeah,
But
the inlet-
right at the inlet bar area, they let them on right
Let
there.
them on the beach.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
about
And
it.
then there's a couple other spots that they.
Right.
that they let 'em
Yeah, I
on.
think the problem is when they do it down by Jenks South.
Right.
It's literally right in between the beaches,
Yeah.
so I think the only access they probably.
Well,
get on
they have
is-
it access from,
is
they do it
Trent.
right from Water
Water
Street,
Street.
because the fire trucks can come up that way,
Right.
and, you know, ambulances or. you know,
So that might be a safety thing on some of the
Yeah.
locations as well.
So you can't get on, you
Right.
can't walk on from there, cause that's where they shoot off the fireworks. They don't even let you, I mean, at 3 o'clock, they clear that area out.
Right, because they're setting up.
And cause they're setting up,
Yeah.
so.
But yeah, so hopefully, I'll be able to announce something on social media at the next council meeting soon. And I heard from a lot of residents who sent in suggestions. They were great suggestions. Maybe we can incorporate those as we go forward. But yeah, so we're working on that. Eric, you had something?
Yeah, and this has nothing to do with the beach access, so is it okay if I change topic?
I have something else to say.
Okay.
But we'll stay on beach topic and then I'll go right to you over that.
So I think it's great that we're, having conversation and movement. One perspective I'd just like to represent are, the families that come and spend thousands of dollars to spend a week at Point Pleasant Beach, or they come for the day and they, by the time they get to the beach, onto the beach, they've already spent $150 in tolls and parking and badges. And I'm one of those people that goes in there in the evening and, gleefully kicked off by, the guys on the ATVs. And so now I feel like, okay, I'm looking for sea glass. If I just keep walking, I guess I'm qualified to stay on the beach, the high water mark. But it breaks my heart to see these families, for all the people here, who grew up at the beach. The best part of your family memories are the evenings at the beach. And we are squashing that. And, I don't know what happens behind the scenes with the police department. I know in 2020, we were in shutdown early in the pandemic. There was a party, and, loads of people came from all over the state, I think, to help support us. But that was when the police academy didn't graduate their officers in time for us to have seasonal officers. We weren't even aware of that. I feel like our police department is so strong and so on top of it, that we're letting, one incident and possible other incidents stop us from this. And I think like the Boston Marathon was run last week. they had a horrific event a couple of years ago. They didn't stop the Boston Marathon. We didn't stop the Olympics when terrible things happened. We didn't, close down New York City when awful things happened. Like, how do we let our beautiful beach and all these family memories get squashed because there was a party that, got messy?
And I think it's more than just a party too, because Joe mentioned, right,
I get
the
it.
hordes
Okay,
of
so-
people
I
line
know,
up.
but can we, as we move forward, chipping away, then let's tackle those things, okay? How do you address these people come, well, part of it is because it's free after 5 o'clock, okay, well, then we can address that. Or they're leaving trash, so maybe, we use those, ugly signs we have on 35 and up at the beach, things that say, you will be fined, you get trash, and let's do a blitz, and let's put in the paper, we're gonna blitz. And then let it be known, you come to Point Pleasant and you leave trash, you're gonna get a ticket. And
And I know Councilman Gantt's working on new signage that is really just gonna lay out,
Yeah.
you cannot do this, this, and this, and I think we're having the fine total, the fine amount.
Yeah, I think they're right in the fine amounts, the signs are gonna be a little bit bigger, they're gonna be going at foot ends,
But let's let it be known, and let's tackle, let's just chip the problems, as opposed to saying, because of this, everything, it has to be like a whole big shutdown, let's attack those. And it might cost more money for a period of time, and need more police officers to do this blitz. I'm just throwing that out, but maybe we can brainstorm ideas. But I hope we work from the assumption of, we want people to come and enjoy the beach. And there are many people, working people, people who don't go out in the sun during the day, and these families at night who, they can't spend every night on the boardwalk, their kids will be crazy by the end of the week, right?
And they'll be
It's like-
broke, yeah.
And they'll be broke,
Right.
yeah, and, let's make the assumption, how do we make it work?
Yeah.
And then start addressing those things, which are all very valid, but, every other beach in the country and in the world has figured it out.
I know.
So Point Pleasant Beach has to be as good as those.
And it's a work in progress, right,
Yes,
so
and
we're
I agree.
working,
So that's good.
working through that, and
Yeah, you got a question?
I could tell firsthand, I live on the beach, and when we had the beach open at night, and these people came with these big coolers, by the time they left, they were drunk, they were throwing up on our property, urinating on our property, left and drove drunk. You have to be there at night to see what goes on after 7 o'clock, when the beach is the way it was.
And we should address that, we shouldn't let that, it shouldn't be extreme.
Right, I think-
You can put the signs you want, if it's not enforced, it's not enforced.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we're not the only town that has.
Right,
curfews.
right.
I mean, Seaside's got a curfew.
Seaside has- yeah.
Walden's got a curfew
Right.
now. Asbury's got a curfew. Some of them are a little bit later than ours.
Right.
Some of them are 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, which is something I'd like to see. But, they are still there.
Yeah.
The initial meeting, when Doug and I went to the meeting and met with all the beach people and stuff like that, we did address that, the time thing, I addressed the time issue. The first step that we agreed upon, was this year was to try to do the cooler increase and see how that went, and then we could go from there. So, it's not a completely, this is it, like Councilman Ramos said, things evolve, we do things, we evolve, hopefully at some point in time, we are back to, somewhat the way that it was, and Doug said that, he has another meeting that's coming up tomorrow, hopefully that's either before or after our meeting that we have to so, or I might jump in with him on that meeting tomorrow, that's fine as well, because we know it's a big issue for the town, we're here for you guys, we are trying to do everything we can for you guys. I know it's very difficult at times, but we are here for you. That's why we set this up. Hopefully we have more of this. But we're trying to take everything you give us, along with our ideas and stuff like that, and try to merge them all together and, throw you the best product that we can.
So,
Did the cooler increase go?
What is the
28
increase?
courts.
It's 28 courts, I forgot the exact
18 by
measure.
15
18 by
by
15,
7.
something like that.
It's a pretty decent size.
Not overly big, but good enough for a family of 4 to bring, sandwiches and
That
water.
only has to carry one cooler now for everybody for the family.
Right, and they're still being checked, for alcohol, so that's still ongoing.
so let me distinguish now, so if they're coming on Jenkinson's Beach, our police department can't go and they can
There's an agreement of
So
placement.
Our police can go on
to
Jenkinson's Beach.
Jenkinson's
Yes.
Beach and give the people who are littering a ticket. Cause I will tell you, my husband drives, I call it the sand phony. And before the pandemic, he would come home with ridiculous things because they take a train down, they have absolutely nothing. They buy a
Believe it.
pool, they buy coolers, they buy umbrellas, they buy chairs, they buy towels, and then they leave it all on the beach. And it was a ridiculous amount of garbage, and I ended up with most of it at my house. So, but before the Point Beach police couldn't go on the beach and do anything, so when you say they're gonna ticket them, which I'm all in favor, cause you cannot believe what
So
is.
that's something that's changed. So I started here as a police officer back in the day. And back in the day, there was an agreement that we can go on the beach at night and issue summonses. It didn't matter where it was on the beach. I don't think
Our
that
police department
as far
patrols
as
the
I
entire
know,
beach.
Yeah.
that has not changed.
So when they see people distributing garbage, they can issue a ticket. I think that's the key.
But it's, you know,
Yeah.
right
And they
place,
have the
right
buggy
time.
that runs up and down, so they're
I think
constantly
if they get them in their wallet, they'll eventually get the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take your garbage and put it home with you, or throw it in the can.
We should ban the styrofoam coolers in general.
I don't,
Cause people buy them for like $5 and they're like, screw it, we'll
You
leave
buy
it
it
here.
at 7-Eleven.
That's the
Oh,
problem.
yeah, that's what it is, it's those styrofoam.
Yeah. At least if you have a cooler, you gotta take it out. The styrofoam, they don't give a
Yeah,
crap
they
about
break.
it.
Most of the time they break when you set something down.
Well, that's the other thing, now you have 20 pieces all over, the wind takes it, now it's gone in the water.
That's something we can look into, I guess.
So I wanna get to the questions that were submitted. I know Erica, you have anything last minute on the beaches? So hopefully, stay tuned. Hopefully there'll be good news coming in the next day or two.
I think it might be beneficial if you're making those signs for the beachfront to put them up in the, train lot too, so they know before they can get down there.
That's a good idea.
It's a good idea.
That's a really good idea. And a high littering fine.
Yeah, my neighbor's house used to have coolers lined up. Because he would tell people, like, he'd be sitting on his front lawn going, you can't bring that up.
Yeah.
Here, I got some plastic bags for you. You give him plastic bags and he would line up the coolers by his house.
I shark fish off that beach at night. I pull 8-9 foot sand tigers up, so I'll go fish right by that party.
Yeah.
You're gonna work on new signs for the boardwalks about the rules, the blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So could you put something on about the bicycles? Because I think the only place it's posted is down by the police substation. So
The
people.
permitted use for the bicycles?
It used to be only till 9 in the morning, and now
Yeah.
Yeah.
take your life in your hands when you,
Yeah,
when
they're
you're
supposed to
even
be,
electric bikes on.
Yeah.
they're supposed to be told to get off the boardwalk.
Well, they get off it and then they go down one street and they get right back on.
But there's no, the signs down near us, like near our entrance at Beachcomber, have, like, you can't do this and no this and you can't do that. and you
I think they're, on the signs, it says no bikes, no skateboards.
Does it?
I believe it does.
No bikes, no skateboards.
Well, yeah, I haven't
double
noticed.
check,
We'll double check.
Okay.
But I think
Well,
that
nobody,
was,
if there is, nobody's paying any attention to it.
yeah.
It says no dogs for
And again, if you ticket them,
Yeah,
if it costs them
that's,
money,
right.
then
Right.
maybe they'll get it.
Thank you.
Erica?
So this is probably something that's more pertaining to, well, it is pertaining to the recreation committee, and probably more impacts me, but since the three of you are probably the perfect person, I will just carve out a little bit of time between current liaison, past liaison, and past president, vice president, whatever. Can there be any consideration for, I understand summer camp has been in place for decades, and it falls on the recreation committee, i.e. me now, to organize the whole thing. Last week, between interviewing, I spent 15 hours interviewing candidates. That does not include organizing, answering their questions via email, reviewing applications, setting everything up. I spent, 3 hours setting up the registration through MyRec. I field parent questions. I spent 3 hours with the assistant director, the director organizing. I spent another 4 hours reviewing the counselor handbook and the parent handbook and redoing that, all on my own free time after a hard day's work, and we're still 3 months out of camp. And that's also with the assistant director and the director doing work. I can't make any decisions, the recreation committee can't make any decisions on any hiring, and we just make recommendations, and then without even council interviewing or speaking to anyone, you have to approve it, and on our word. And I just don't think it's something that should fall, I think there could be somebody in town hall, and I don't know who, or hired by the borough, maybe it's a temporary yearly part-time position that could take that on because it's not a recreation activity. It sucks a lot of resources out of what we do and what we could provide to the town as far as volunteering. It's a lot of stress, a lot of, there's about $3,000 in supplies that I have to order, which means I have to go order them. They get delivered to town hall because you can't change the address, which means now more of my time spent going to pick up supplies from here to drive them over to the shed in Pleasure Park. Multiple trips, because there's tons of boxes, and these are just small little things, and I know it probably impacts nobody else in this room, but my time could be better spent volunteering to put on other events in town, or make sure our events can be opened up to more people, or whatever it happens to be. But I don't understand why, I think back in the day, it was a little more like ride your bike up and there's people there that kind of watch your kid and what it is, but now they're setting up vendors for every single day because no kid can be bored, and all this other stuff that goes into it that's like literally a full-time job. And I'm not asking, I'm a volunteer, so I'm not getting paid or anything, but it's a big, huge onus, and I think that it doesn't belong where it is.
So first off, thank you for doing
I
all
wasn't
that.
saying that.
No, but I want to thank you for that. Yeah. So I know in my time up on council, so about 4 years, there's been talk of a paid rec person. I know we work closely with Manasquan Rec. They have paid positions. There was no appetite for that in the 4 years here. I know the farmer's market asked to have a town hall employee help the farmer's market, and when we had internal discussions, there wasn't appetite for that either. That's something that I took note of in talking to the different committees, and it's something that I'd have to talk to the council about, but maybe bringing on another position as like an event coordinator in town that will.
Really you need to start ramping up in February.
Yeah.
And really they're done basically in July.
Right.
So it could even just be or take the camp director and pay them an actual salary and have them start early.
So that's another alternative is to give them, and I think we gave them more money to start earlier so they could start building the program, but maybe we give them more money to start even earlier so that they could do all the interviews and stuff like that. No, I believe me, I was intimately involved with the setup and the administration the first few years, and I know it's a burden.
That's why I figured with Art's heard about it now that he's liaison, you firsthand experience, so if there's 3 better people to present this, and so I won't apologize, but I'll apologize for taking
Yeah,
time.
no, I mean,
Like,
it's a valid point, and it's something I guess we could talk as a council.
I think the recreation committee through the years, I know years ago in 2010, I was heavily involved with the recreation committee because I was a father that had young children, and there weren't a lot of events going on in town. It had really deteriorated to the point where there was almost gonna be no more recreation camp anymore because there just wasn't any more interest in it, and that was unacceptable, so a bunch of us got together. Mary Jane Riley was involved, we dragged her into it. Glenn Pisano was the chair, I was the vice chair, and we established a lot of great events. We brought back the bonfire, and all these things. You guys, Mayor Vitale, yourself, and all the great folks that are on rec, took it and just threw it home. I mean, 37 events a year? I mean, that's amazing, okay? I'm sorry, in my opinion, that needs help. That needs, Manasquan is a very similar town to us, and they have a paid recreation, want to call it a director, want to call it a whatever, it could be a part-time position, but I think it's something we should honestly look at, because I want the events to grow in this town. I want recreational opportunities to increase for our families. And you know what? We just committed $1.5 million for a Coast Guard station that we're going to utilize as a community center. And there's going to be additional recreational opportunities there. So we're looking at, the potential of the Open Space Committee is making recommendations that we look at Channel Drive for maybe a park or something. That's going to be additional recreational activities. So recreational activities are a part of this town, like it or not. And I love it,
Also
okay?
keeps kids out of trouble.
Keeps kids out of trouble, and the more events you have, the better it is. So I think it's time to start looking at
Just
it.
keep in mind.
Just to be fair and echo Erica, cause I'm on the recreation committee.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that help you too,
We,
but.
like, the rec committee does day events, right? We do the tuck, we do Show Us Your Hearts, it's one day event. So it is out of place that we're responsible for running a camp. And it's like a liability, you don't know. It really should
I've
be
never been
handled
to
by
camp.
somebody.
I know, and I don't have kids that have ever been to camp.
And
I don't know the first thing about
Or
camp.
even, like, if a volunteer didn't step forward.
I mean, we would have asked
That is
the
what I said.
director and assistant director to take over, and if not, then we wouldn't have had a camp.
But I think what Eric has said is true. So Mike, when we were on rec, there was one year that we didn't think we were going to have it. And I'm just gonna say, the mommies in this town were not
They
happy.
flip out, I know,
They
I
flip
know.
out because
Well,
they.
But guess what? We got a lot of mommies and daddies that joined recreation and got on because they, you know what? No, we gotta have that
But
camp.
the expectation, like, we could give them, they could make little bracelets. Now, the expectation for
We need
these
the bug
kids
guy to
at
come in
camp
and we need
is,
to schedule him
when I
3
read
times.
about what you
Yeah.
do, it's unbelievable. So I think, I think the time has come.
And I don't mean to say this a personnel thing, but gosh forbid earlier in the year when I mentioned we were so short on volunteers, that was in danger.
Right.
And I was harassed on Facebook and by council people that I have no right, you have to do it, it has to get done, you can't cancel it, as if I was personally like, no, I don't care about canceling.
We're volunteers, we don't get paid.
I don't get paid for it. I didn't appreciate the harassment, but I have thick skin, you guys say anything more about me, I don't care.
And
But
even the.
it's, so it's not even an option of like, just don't do it. I had to do it.
But everything that rec does now, even the Easter egg hunt, right, Mike? I mean, if ours was simple, easy, yours is not. The Winter Wonderland. I mean, you do like big.
You do major events.
Major
You do
events.
major
Forget to
events.
mention pickleball.
Or
I'm not going near that one.
Yeah. But that's something, I made a note, and I could talk to the council and Christine and see what we could do to give you some assistance.
And thanks for all your support. I really thought I was a lone wolf on that one. I appreciate that.
John, you have something?
I was gonna talk about something different, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think a few years back, you guys created a garbage ordinance.
Mhm.
I believe it was like 4 cans and 1 garbage bag is allowed to be put on the ground. I'm hoping that we can relook at that. I'm just somebody that happens to, cut my grass, put it in bags, bag up all my leaves, and there's occasions where, I might have 10 bags and I have to barter with my neighbors. You take this bag here, I don't get a ticket. I might have a party, and, on a normal day-to-day basis, it's okay.
Right.
On those extra days, specifically in the summer, cutting grass, it becomes burdensome. Which leads me to my next point. I also put grass in the bags because I know that most people that, hire landscapers to cut grass, I think you're not supposed to blow it into the streets, but everybody blows grass into the streets, right? So that clogs our storm drains. I can't tell you what the price that we pay on unclogging storm drains, but it's gotta be up there. It's consistently clogging our drains. With that, you have leaves, grass, and with the grass, you have pesticides. Now, the pesticides is something I think you guys should look at. With the increase in cancer in kids, we should be protecting our kids. These companies, they put these little signs up, they blow away, kids go rolling around in the grass, like in Antrim. I'm there all the time playing with my kids, and I wanna be able to protect them. There are ways to organically fertilize the grass, and we're so close to the water. All of this goes into our storm drains and directly into the ocean, into the water stream, and it's just bad. It's bad policy. So, number one, I'm asking that you guys look at the trash and possibly banning pesticides, because it's extremely bad for everyone, but specifically kids, because they're not out there reading signs,
Right, yeah. So, good point on the garbage ordinance, and I said that when I got into office, I would work with the council to look at all the ordinances, so we'll add that one to the list, and, yeah, I mean, when you have, you know, a holiday and they don't pick up, and then you have 6 bags because you have a party, I know it's tough, and I'll look at the pesticide thing, and we'll talk to some of our committees and stuff and see what we can do.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna get to some of the questions that were brought in. Unfortunately, a lot of them are directed at Councilman Gant, so I'm gonna put you on the spotlight for a little bit.
Here comes the,
So these were all submitted, I'm not gonna give names, so I'll just read them off, Art, when you're ready, so, please.
some I might answer, and some I might not, honestly, guys.
Good for you.
So,
Alright, so please explain why as a newly elected representative, your need for a town-paid cell phone, as no other bordering towns' elected officials have this perk, and that the state doesn't require you to keep text messages.
okay. It wasn't just me that, voted for that. Every councilman can have a cell phone. I'll answer this real quick. When I first got on this council, obviously things didn't start off well. So the Oprah requests that started coming out in droves on everybody's cell phones, everybody's text messages, emails, et cetera, et cetera. So to get away from that and to have a record for the town, I thought it was in the best interest to get a cell phone, just like some of the other departments heads in our town have cell phones to do their daily work as department heads. I thought it was best for the council to have a record, so now you can see who I call. Most of the time it's Doug, and text, and all the emails, everything's on that phone. And that's what it's used for. It's not used for anything else, not used privately, it's used to township stuff, and if you want to open request by phone, I literally will come down here, and I will give it to whoever I need to give it to, and they can go through whatever emails, texts, phone calls, or everything else. So I thought it was just an easy way to squash all the open requests, because I'm not sure if you know, but it's costing thousands upon thousands of dollars for all those open requests. The ladies downstairs aren't even getting the regular work done because of all the open requests that are coming. So it's, I'm just trying to get out in front of it, and I thought it was best for the town.
So there's another question about personnel, which we can ask, but please explain your rationale as a newly elected, not sworn-in official in bypassing the permit process and starting a build not permitted, all while admitting you took the required code classes that the mayor asked each elected official to take.
I don't know what to.
I know I brought up the planning, when we were still doing the rehab redevelopment, I brought up that we should all take the planning board classes.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, because I was like, what did it say? So the big deal, so everybody knows, with my clubhouse, shed, there's been so much stuff online, and I've been getting bashed for the last 4 months online. You guys have forced me off social media. So as much as everybody wants to sit here and say, oh, this is harassment from the township officials, harassment. Honestly, guys, I've been harassed so much in the last 4 months from certain residents that I left social media. So you literally are affecting my life. I don't sleep certain nights. I don't enjoy coming to these meetings. Yeah, it was. It literally was. You're right. It was my idea. But it was my idea to help do things that the residents wanted. Open access to beaches. Different things that you have wanted that I've worked with. So that's why I got involved. Not to be personally attacked every day on social media, every hour, every week. So yes, I had a clubhouse in my backyard. My daughter said I ripped it down. My daughter came to me and said, hey, can you build us something back? I had leftover lumber from my build when I built the house. That's how that morphed into what is there. Once that structure was there, the roof line did change. So I apologize. Code enforcement did come over and said, do you have a permit? What are you building? I said, I'm building the clubhouse extension onto the shed for my daughter. You need a permit. Sounds good. I called first thing Monday morning. What kind of permit do I need? Are you building a garage? No, I'm not building a garage. Are you building a shed? No, it's too big for a shed. we don't know what permit you want. Okay, what permit should I get? This is how this morphed. By that time, there was pictures on social media, there's people saying I suck, go after yourself, I hate your guts. People I have never even met or had a personal conversation in my lifetime, were trashing me. But I've been doing the right things. I came to the town, I said, what do you want me to do? They said, put the roof on it, you've already ripped it off, and I said, you're out of your mind. I will finish my rafters at this point, and I'm done. I don't care if the thing rots, I don't care if it falls over, I'm not doing another thing to it. I did the same steps as everybody else that has to do all the steps in town. I could have made it a massive garage in my backyard. That's not what I set out to do. I didn't want to take up more space in my backyard. So I did go to the zoning board for approval. The zoning board gave me approval. I think the stuff just got memorialized last week. Whatever the town tells me to do as far as what I need for the permits to pass is what I'm doing. It's no different than anybody else has done. Did I do it at a very wrong time? Absolutely. I will give you that 100%. That's bad on me. It was never done maliciously. It was never done in ill intent. But it's been talking to town. I apologize. It actually blew up into something that it was never supposed to blow up into. But I know a lot of that now comes back as like, oh, you can't vote anything for the town for a building. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. I know you think it does. I know you think it does. But we're trying to collectively, I'm not trying to change the rules. I'm working with Doug, I'm working with the other council people to try to make the building department better for everybody.
So it sounds like you didn't get the right advice when you went to the building department. And you said, and they said, are you building this? No, he's building this. You
Yes,
said
I
no.
was told.
And so they said, well, then, so
Yeah.
you didn't get, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. It doesn't sound like
I was told
who was
because-
ever in the building department didn't tell you.
I was told
instead
because the
to-
clubhouse is not on the books, that you can't get a permit for a clubhouse. That's what I was understanding.
It's not on the books
It's
of
not in the
the,
books of
of the town,
what you
whatever.
can build in town. So that's where we are. I did all the steps. I'm waiting for them to say, hey, go put your permit in, because whatever was passed zoning. And they're gonna come inspect, and they're gonna tell me whether I need to, whatever I need to add to it to, make it go and do what's required. That's where I'm at.
Who's inspecting it, the borough? Not the
Yes.
beach, right?
The beach can't do
Yeah.
it, because it's a
Well, that's
conflict.
what it- yeah.
So it has to go to the borough.
Yeah.
So if the borough comes in and says, your stuff's all messed up, you're in town, if you need to add this, you need to add that, I'm at the mercy of the borough.
Why does the borough have to
So-
inspect the?
Cause he's on council.
It's like, because I'm on
Yeah.
council for the city.
Yeah,
It's a
the way it works is
Oh.
zoning is individual for each town.
Oh.
So if it's, because zoning could be different between us and Manasquan and Bayhead.
Yep.
But building rules is a state, governed issue. So that has to be the same. Since that has to be the same, since since he's a council person in the beach, to avoid conflicts of interest, we have, I forget exactly what they call it, reciprocatory
Oh.
Yep.
rights with other towns. So like,
Wow.
if a council person in Borough wanted to get a permit, our inspector would have to go and inspect it. If somebody like Art wants to build something, then the permit inspection has to be done, or the building inspection has to be done by a different town. And most towns have reciprocatory things set up.
My thing with the whole building thing, that I shouldn't be able to vote on stuff, this is my reason. If I decide to build a garage in my backyard in a year and a half, and I rip down my shed, because they classify it as a shed, clubhouse, whatever. If I decide to rip that down in a year and a half, and go get a permit to build my garage, and then we decide that, hey, something has to get changed in the building department, are you then saying, well, you can't vote on that because you have your open permit? I would say no.
I don't think that's it at all. I don't
I'm
think.
still entitled to get a permit, I'm still entitled to be able to build stuff on my house. Because I have an open permit, should not exclude me from being able to do stuff with the building.
I think it may affect like personnel decisions, right? If somebody in the building department is up for promotion or.
Yeah, but nobody's inspecting my building.
Right. And that's something
Nobody's
we'll leave
inspecting
up to
my
the,
And I think it's more,
attorneys to.
and I agree with you, Art, I agree with you on that, I think you shouldn't be. But when you have a violation, that's when it's a conflict. And there was a short period of time where there's a violation, it's been all cleared up now, and that's great.
Yeah.
But I think for elected officials, if you have a violation, or you have outstanding violations, that's where you have to be careful, because there's potential.
And I took care of that violation as fast as I.
And it got addressed, it got taken care of, great.
I can't speak for anybody else, but just to let everybody know, there are.
But can I just say something about that, and I'm not a party to this at all, but the fact that you can deal without getting through, like, you build anything, you build like, 2 feet onto your shed, you gotta get a permit, FEMA requires you, if you're gonna stack lobster crates, you gotta send a FEMA. I think one of the issues is that you just didn't do that, and the fact that you were able to get in front of the zoning board and get this approved, it feels like a privilege compared to the rest of us who have to wait.
No, I waited just as long as everybody else. I waited 4 months.
Okay. You ever been in office? Did you start this one in 4 months?
It started right before I got elected.
Okay, so that to me seemed like I'm not deep into this, but it seemed like one of the issues is that you built something without a permit, and kind of like everybody knows you can't do anything on your property without a permit, and then it seemed like you got privilege. I mean, I don't know if you did, but it seems like you got ahead, you
Again, guys,
jumped the line.
I'm trying to answer the questions as best as I can. This is not a let me bash.
No, I'm not.
I understand that, and I'm trying to.
You're not taking this as bashing.
No.
I'm just saying this is a perception that I think.
I know, it was a very bad perception. I apologize. I've apologized a million times for it. I don't.
But you would say you
I
didn't
can't-
jump the line, you didn't get zoning preference?
No, I did not.
Yeah, we're gonna move on.
So, I apologize. I've apologized a million times. I can't change what has happened.
Alright,
I don't know what the end goal is to continue to
we're almost at time.
get it going.
So there's questions that came in about Councilwoman Crowley's bias incident.
Yep, I'm not gonna talk about that because that's a personal issue.
Okay. There was another question about the conflict of interest. I think you handled that. Condition, alright, so we talked about your variance. Are you gonna satisfy this condition with the detached, you already explained all that. Another comment is the Board of Adjustment application appears to be doctored, the specs and calculations do not add up. I don't know if you wanna.
I have no idea what all that means. I don't
Okay.
know. Whatever building department tells me what I need to make sure that it's compliant is what's gonna happen. That's where I'm at.
Alright, so you're not gonna comment on the Councilwoman Crowley, and then I guess, as the council liaison to the Board of Ed, what is your opinion if there's a substantial evidence that an acting Board of Education
I'm not on the Board of Ed.
member was producing fraudulent vaccination cards? We should be done with that.
I'm not part of the Board of Ed.
Okay.
And I don't think that's just a question that should be for me. I think it's,
Somebody was producing fake vaccination
I don't know,
cards?
that's a question we
Yeah.
got.
Wild.
everybody was doing it.
Really?
That-
Oh, that's right, because they didn't want to get vaccinated.
Yeah, 100,000 people have done it for all
Yes, you're
kinds of
right.
different events.
The whole union was doing it.
Concerts, this, that.
You're right.
I don't have this.
That's it for, yeah,
What somebody
we
personally
can
does.
move on to other topics, but I appreciate your honesty and
So-
transparency.
And again, it was very, very poor timing. It was, some very bad choices. I've apologized. I'm sorry, I can't say it enough. I don't know what the end goal is to constantly, come after me on it. I'm doing everything possible that I can do to make it compliant. I'm doing it as fast as I can. The town's not giving me any treatments or benefits. Specifically, I've come here and said, do not put me on anything, let the system play out. I'm not the first person in this town that has built something without a permit, I can assure you that. People have built houses without permits in this town. So I'm not looking for any treatment, I never expect any treatment. I literally am here to help the residents. That's why I set this whole thing up, so we have an open dialogue, you can come to us and explain stuff. We're trying to do everything that we can on certain things. Doug and I talk at least once or twice a week, if not meet. We're trying to do things. All the other personal stuff that's going on, that is gonna play out, okay? It has nothing to do with me. It's got nothing to do with Doug, it's got nothing to do with Mike. People make actions, they're their own actions. It doesn't matter what my opinion is, guys. It really doesn't. I like to get along with everybody.
Well, your opinion does matter when you're up there voting and you say that you don't know what censure is, then you need clarification. The last meeting, you got clarification from the lawyer, and your opinion and your judgment is why we put you where we put you. And I feel like everyone said this whole thing about recalls, it's like a dirty word. Like, no, we possibly could say, now we made a bad choice about you and we don't think you should be there. And you sit there and you say you didn't know something, you claim that you didn't understand the legalities of something, okay, understandable, but then you still sit there and don't give consequences. Sure, it could have been a mistake. We could sit here all day and say, oh, we all make mistakes, but we're adults and you get consequences with your mistakes, whether they're a mistake or not. And you are not doling out the consequences that everybody else would be getting here. We want consequences, then we can forgive and then we can move forward. But until adults receive consequences,
What consequences do you
censure,
want?
something, removal of her
Do you know
duties.
what a censure is? Do you know what it is?
You're the one who said that you weren't aware of it.
I wasn't aware of it.
So-
And then I was made aware of it. But,
But I'm asking, so why is it any of the votes, resignation, the removal and stripping of her duties and committees, you voted either no or you just removed yourself from it?
A lot of things that you've mentioned, we can't even do. This is why last council meeting, actually, I believe I agree with Mike on moving forward to put something in place that way if something does.
But you also then said, only from here forward, we can't go
right.
backwards.
Well, we shouldn't go backwards, right?
No, consequence needs to happen and actions need to happen to people who've done things, and that's it. And if we keep on using that as our excuse, next time it's like, well, next time we'll do something,
Well,
but not
that's
right
why-
now. That's what we're seeing, and you keep on talking about you're here for us. We want you here for us, and we
I
want
am.
you to start doing
I
something.
understand that. And I understand every decision that I make, you're not gonna like. I understand that.
There's very few, oh, just really one a lot of the
So-
time.
Mike introduced a way to rectify the problem moving forward, and I think I motioned to adopt it. I think I was the one that motioned it, or definitely seconded it.
For here forward.
So, yes, we have to start somewhere, right?
I agree with starting somewhere, but we also,
We
I
have
think
to
that
start
everybody's not gonna forgive and forget this
I
until
understand that.
consequences are given out, and you
So
don't
the
wanna
slate
get.
white clean then with her,
So-
right?
I mean, look, I've spoken about this publicly too, right? There's zero consequences and I've called everybody in the state that I could figure out who to ask for advice. And I've just been told that there's nothing you could do.
So why am I getting charged with disorderly conduct and all that bullshit for getting thrown out here?
Consequences.
I mean,
Right,
look,
consequences.
again, as an elected official, the elected officials are protected by certain rights. Again, I don't agree with it.
All
Right,
right.
I would love to had something in place where we could have done something. The bottom line is, we can, and, I'm taking steps, right?
So
No,
now the
no,
town
it's-
people will take it into their own hands.
But
You
that's
will
the
be
whole thing.
judge,
I think that's the whole
jury.
point, Doug, and what you're saying is, you've tried everything you've
So you're going
done,
up there.
you've put it out there, and council members, all we need, could be one change of the vote. You can be the person that changes all of this. It just takes you. We don't need everybody else. You're that one vote.
And
The
Jen,
new
I'll
person.
just clear up, so censure is really just a slap.
I'm
on the
saying
wrist.
any of them, all those votes that night, all of them.
Well, and look, the removing from the committee, because it's in our ordinance.
I understand it has to be a year.
That has to be a year. Same with the council president. I did that just because I needed to do something, and I would have challenged it. If the votes would have passed, I know the attorney at the time, who was not Mike Collins, but one of his partners, said you couldn't do it. I would have challenged it if we had the votes and figured out
But
a
you
way
did
to do
it.
it. But we didn't. But we have to move on. And again, the 2 meetings from now, I'm bringing in a nonprofit to educate the elected officials on anti-Semitism and
Yeah,
all
but they
that.
don't have to take it.
It's not mandatory.
So what's the
Look,
point?
we hope that everybody will attend,
We all
but
know
we
they won't.
can't, but we can't force it.
So
we all know.
the complaining of council members about being bullied or this or that, well, most of your people here don't think you're making the right choices. It's not bullying, it's adults wanting you to accept consequences for your actions, for your choices, and for your vote. So either start doing what the town wants you to do, what we put you there to do, or deal with basically the consequences that people aren't gonna be your biggest fan. And you're gonna be critiqued, and we're gonna open request, and we're gonna keep digging and looking, and it's never gonna end until the right thing is
Exactly.
done.
So
Like,
that's what I'm
other
trying to-
council members sit there and go, do the right thing,
That's what I'm
do
trying
the
to
right
figure.
thing.
What's the end goal? What's the end goal?
Do what we put you up
Consequences.
there to do.
Give, dole out the, agree with the rest of the people that sit here and don't
I
think it's
understand
right.
that. But that's on this decision, so if I don't agree with what you want on the next decision, then it's constant harassment.
It's
Then
not agree.
If I don't wanna agree with
You
you on the
stayed
next
one
decision,
way
then
with the
it's
This
same
is-
three
no.
people from day one.
You've been on there on
So
the
don't even
4
deny
block
it.
this
All
entire
right,
time.
I don't wanna get into all this, I mean,
Yeah.
it's played out itself at council meetings
Guys,
and, you know,
we're moving.
I
I'm trying to
understand
move
where you're
forward
coming from.
with
I
everybody.
understand.
I'm trying to do stuff for the town.
right,
Then
That's
show
what I'm
it.
doing. I'm doing some stuff
Can
for
I
the
ask
town.
one more question, so I think we can,
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanna get off this subject, because I have very definite opinions about it, but I think most of the people in town know, because I was on the recall committee, but, I wanna talk a little bit about the bid. I love our downtown. You know, we're here 21 years full-time now, 25 years homeowners. And when we moved here, I never shopped in our downtown. I went to Spring Lake, I took all my friends and, you know, guests, to Spring Lake. I love our downtown. And, so I know a bid was created, and what's happening, is anything happening?
We're
with
waiting
that?
on, documentation from the state. We need some documentation in order to incorporate the bid and as a nonprofit and stuff. So we've been waiting on that for a long, long time. But the plan is to continue going forward with the bid, once we get that.
And so to do what we can to help the great stores that we have
Yes.
downtown be able to stay and hopefully maybe
Yes.
attract some new ones. I mean, we have, like in the last, year and a half, such like new great shops that have come
Yeah.
in, that people are coming from up north.
Yeah.
To say, I heard about Little Twin Bookshop, look at the lines that Kelly gets when she has Jesse Waters or somebody there.
Right.
500 people, right? 500 people were there that day. Molly Boards, I mean, she's so busy now that if she's booking into July, so, anyway, we have a lot of wonderful stores.
Yeah.
And, I just think that our downtown is such a plus.
And part of my vision is to continue with that and make Point Pleasant Beach a destination, not just in the summer for the beach and boardwalk. Hey, how do we pull those people off the beach and boardwalk
Right.
to downtown? But also have them in the off-season say, hey, I wanna go to the
Right.
bookstore or Spanos or whatever. So I'm working on that. There's some things with the county that I'm working on, maybe doing some decorative lighting, some painting of crosswalks. Ultimately, I'd love to have, Arnold Ave shut down one day a month and kind of replicate what Manasquan does. I think that'd be awesome for the residents and visitors to just be able, or Bay, right, just to kind of, yeah, just to kind of walk
Like what
around
they
and,
do for the, when was it that does?
the homegrown does
Yeah.
Bay, yeah.
Yeah, they do that.
Yeah, so,
But
you
even
know,
like in the summer, we could do that.
Yeah.
Once a month, and as you said, get the people off the boardwalk.
right,
on
so
the
that's
beach.
that's the thing that, you know, and Councilman Ramos and I have walked downtown and met with several of the business owners and that's what we talk about. How do we, let's collectively come up with a way to get them off the beach and boardwalk. If you're staying for a week, you're gonna go downtown and shop and stuff, but if you're only there for the day, it'd be great as you're leaving town to go downtown, grab a bite to eat, and then make your way wherever it is. So we're working on that. I think, you know, point-to-point shuttle is great in that they're offering those pickups and stuff like that. So I think there's ways to do that, but, you know, we have the new decorating committee, so little by little, you know, they're decorating town, and beautification does a great job to doing that. So I think, yeah, so I think, and again, all the events that rec and the arts committee and seniors are doing, I think that's adding to that, so.
My question on tax assessment?
Oh, sorry, yes. So we are slated to do a reevaluation. It was supposed to be this year. We're waiting for the state, we gave them updated tax maps, so we're waiting for them to certify that. Most likely, the work is gonna start next year. and then be done the year after. Or start later on this year and then be done some point in 2025, but we're waiting for the state to, so it is coming.
It's mandated by, it's mandated by the state.
By the state. Yeah.
Well, we do have the lowest taxes in Ocean County. If that helps.
Rob?
I just, following back up on the rentals, I don't know the answer, as far as asking them. Our, code and fire, I assume that they keep track of the ordinances as far as, if you rent for a week or what we were talking about earlier. We have over 300 rentals, usually at the high point during the summer. It'd be beneficial to hire somebody part-time, to just do that, given that I know the Airbnb down for me, already has just weekends booked, in June now. It's already on there.
Right.
Just to keep track of that, 'cause 300 rentals, how are those three dealing with all the inspections and all the other code, issues? Then you have 300 rentals and you're trying to keep track of, who's there for a week, and all, they're supposed to give all the names and whatnot. I mean, that's a lot,
You're right, it's a ton of work,
Yeah,
and,
I don't wanna mention his name, sorry, gentlemen. There is a person that keeps track of all that stuff, so he's provided me like some certain things on the houses that like out of control, under my houses and all that stuff. So that individual is keeping track of certain things that we can look into.
yeah, and the building department's gonna change itself over the next
Track.
week or two with just, personnel matters, which I can't talk about, but, yeah, I mean, that's, we'll reevaluate and see if we need a part-time person, but I will say, our code enforcement, they're on top of,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
no,
all
I
that
know.
stuff.
I just,
and,
I know they are. I
yeah.
just meant as far as that, do they need a hand, for the Memorial Day to Labor Day?
Yeah.
As far as the influx of, because obviously the amount of rentals, goes down, the amount of work, we have to.
Yeah.
So
That's
just,
something we could reevaluate.
Just during the summertime.
Yeah.
Just, and I'm not saying that they're not capable of doing it.
No, no, no.
Obviously they've been
Right,
doing
just,
it.
and then
It's just,
give them a hand.
Added hand as far as, when I really thought about the amount of, like, paperwork.
I think Rob's looking for a job.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But, and remember, you use that GovAlert system.
My area of expertise. Anything with a computer, forget about it.
And we look to the residents to help out too, right? So use that GovAlert if you see people. What's that?
I got it in.
There you go. Okay, good. So yeah, if you see something, make sure you you put it in GovAlert or email me or let code enforcement know. This way they can.
That's how we catch it.
Right.
That's how we catch it,
Okay.
too.
And we have to become diligent. Airbnb, people are getting very creative.
Yes.
And what they'll do is they'll advertise a house somewhere else.
Yeah.
And when people call about the house that they're advertising, they'll say, oh, gee, we're sorry, that one's already rented, but, and all of a sudden, they're doing something, renting a property that's not even listed for rent. So if you do see somebody coming in and out of the houses, it's all we can do is to let people know.
Yeah, just report it and let code enforcement take over and they'll work on investigating. We have about 5 minutes. Any last minute questions? DJ.
Just at the council meetings, everybody tends to give the nice fluff reports, of what events they're having for either beautification or rec and all of that. I think what a lot of people want to see is more detail on the standing committees. So if they're a member of a standing committee, which everybody is, a little more detail into that, I think would bring a lot of transparency to what's been going on, especially the building committee right now with the permits. It's one thing to say we've given out this many permits for the year, but let's say, all right, how many did we give this month?
Right.
Or how many violations did we hand out this month? In the month of May. Instead of just, you're hearing the same numbers each meeting because they're giving the numbers from the beginning of the year.
Right.
Let's update those numbers.
Sounds more impressive.
Right, it sounds more impressive if
Yeah.
you're doing a year's worth of numbers.
Exactly.
But if you could get up there and say, hey, month of July, we handed out 30 violations for ABCD, or we handed, you know, things like that. I think that's gonna make people see that, hey, look, they are cracking down, instead of people not realizing that they're looking at things. You know, how many fire calls they went out, instead of just the big impressive ones.
Right.
You know, EMS handled, 300 calls, fire department went on 20 alerts. You know, it'll bring more attention to those things.
Yeah.
Of what they're
Good
doing.
point.
You know, and then people won't sit here and go, well, they're not cracking down on this, or they're not cracking down on that, because we don't know it.
Right. No, that's a very good point.
Good point.
I made a note of that. Before we end, I will just announce, so tying in the downtown and the events, we have what's called Town Crier, so an electronic billboard being delivered. It's en route now. It's gonna go on Arnold Ave, almost on the corner of Bay. And it's gonna, act as a store directory on all the stores on Arnold and Bay, but it's also gonna have all the calendars. So every single committee, the school calendar, Chamber of Commerce. So as you're walking up and down Arnold, you can look at that, and I think it'll be interactive, and then you can see what events are coming on. So just another way for us to get the events out. But I just wanna wrap up and say, this far exceeded my expectations of participation, so I really appreciate everybody coming out. The conversation doesn't end at 9 o'clock tonight. You have all of our phone numbers and email addresses. If you think of something when you leave here tonight, email any one of us, and we'll look into it. I took some notes that I will be going back to Christine and other members of Town Hall to look into, as well as the council. But, we need you guys to let us know what your issues are, because as we've all stated up here, we're here for you guys. So again, if there's something that we didn't talk about tonight, or something you remember, please let us know. We're gonna schedule another one with 2 other council members, probably maybe midsummer, or maybe we wait on it. We gotta look at the scheduling. It's hard to get people out in the summertime, but we'll continue to do these, so you have an opportunity to talk to all the council members. But that being said, thank you everybody for coming out.
Thank you for making yourself available.
Thank you.
No one else could do it.